Hi guys, it's Nate from Tanton Squad here, coming at you guys with a new deck profile. So my trip to Nats was a bit weird, and afterwards I felt quite burnt out. I was playing Sword Soul and I scrubbed out early during the tournament, so over the last few weeks I've been playing other decks like Unchained, which went really badly, but
to be fair, you were playing with like DPE and you were playing with Brave and like you were trying.
I was trying to make it good, but there's only so far you can like go with that. So I decided to go back to Despia, and this is a list that I feel super comfortable with. And yeah, here's the deck list. Cool. So this is the list. I'm going to run through it real quick. If there's anything different, then I'll just give my explanations for it.
It seemed quite standard, which I do quite like when I was looking through it myself.
Yeah. So we got 3 Aluba, 3 Tragedy.
Not really. They don't need explaining.
No, not really. 1 Dramaturge. This comes up quite a bit, because the Despia board doesn't end on a lot of negates, it ends on a lot of interactions. So with this card, it ends with a little bit more presence and also allows you to OTK later on in the turns. Like, this deck revolves around having quite a big early game, but also is quite explosive during the later turns when you know your opponent's out of resources. Then Dramaturge, which is quite self-explanatory.
That card's nuts with Mirror Jade.
It is insane, because you can just Mirror Jade, recycle your Mirror Jade by fusing it into Chimera, so on and so forth.
This is like very, very common knowledge, but like Mirror Jade says that you can't use its effect next turn, but you can use it twice in the same turn.
Exactly.
So if you revive it, it's a fresh monster.
So 3 Fallen of Owlbaz,
Nice.
quite self-explanatory.
Rarities.
Yeah, we need the ulti, so we need the ultimate collection. 1 Tri-Brigade Mercuria, 1 Albion the Shrouded Dragon, and then 1 Spriggan's Kit. So this is just basically the Lost package. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Are these the Lost Boys?
Unfortunately. And then we also have 1 Fairy Tale Snow. Broken. And it's not once per 10 either. Yeah, so with this lineup, the reason why I play 3 Chain and 3 Patchwork is because Patchwork and Chain plus you, Poly does not. And because this is one of the hard bricks in the deck, you want to limit seeing it as much as possible. Plus, this deck searches through quite a lot during the first few turns with your Allures and your Patchworks and such, which you'll see later. Like, I wanted to see as many high value cards as possible. And
whenever I'm seeing people play Despia, when it's polymerization that's in the hand, that seems like the weaker hand compared to the other 2.
If not, it's just either you can set it as a bluff, keep it in your hand for hand advantage, or you can basically just discard it off of your belly. And there are so many ways to like either bluff or try and use it to your advantage. Like seeing Poly.
It's a play starter, isn't it?
Yeah. It just depends on the pilot at the end of the day. Like when I see Poly, it does suck, but at the end of the day, like I don't really mind if I do see it in hand, because then it's either 3 could discard or I can just use it for extension.
Patchwork makes it worth it, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. 3 Opening, one of the best cards in the deck. 3 Branded Fusion, self-explanatory. 2 red, pretty standard ratios really. You don't want to run 3 copies of red, 2 is enough, and it's recyclable for Tragedy, so pretty self-explanatory. 1 copy of Lost. This card would be better if it stopped Ash, but this just allows you, in a going second scenario, to play through your opponent's board more effectively if they've already set up on-board negates and you know what you're playing into. Obviously it doesn't play very well into specific hand traps, but that's fine.
And this is obviously the card as well that searches all the one-offs, so the Kit.
Yeah, the Kit, the Albion, and then also the Mercuria, I was always saying Nerval. 1 of the Theatre. I've seen a lot of people cut this card, but in my opinion it just allows you to play through very specific board breakers, and also allows you to extend further. For example, if you used up all your Patchworks and you want to go into another fusion, you can just use the
I think it adds another layer to Aluba. So
yes.
It increases what Aluba can do on his own.
And it also,
yeah.
I feel like going into the later turns, you were running out of search targets quite a lot. So I wanted to at least have cards that could plus me in specific game scenarios, and I would either use this as a bluff or, again, to extend my plays. And then the other card that we run is Banishment. This card is nuts. Honestly, you can win so many games just by literally setting this from an Albion that you've used previously in the turn through Mirror Jade's effect, and then set it up to the point where you can have a full set of full cards in hand, and then obviously just use this to pit apart your opponent's board and then just go for game from there. And then we run quite a lot of board breakers and also utility cards. So we play 3 Forbidden Droplet, 2 Super Poly. Now I know people were cutting Super Poly for Forbidden Droplets. If I was going into a bigger event, I would actually consider probably cutting the Super Poly, because I don't like the variance of running into a big event and hoping that I see Despia or seeing another deck that can be Super Polyed. But running this card with decks running around like Dinomorphia, the Despia Mirror Match, Predaplants, and also sometimes Punk Brave, sometimes they'll end on a really crappy board, or they'll misplay to the point where they leave themselves vulnerable, or they're trying at least the bare minimum set up a Cyclock. And with the Predaplant boards, they only end on a Dracostopelia plus a Mirror Jade with a set Predaplanting. And that board can be easily beaten over with this deck, but this just adds like another level of extension.
Are these properties for Ultimate ones?
I wish I was that. I wish I could afford them, if I'm honest.
No, I wish I had 5 spell speed 4 cards in mine.
Yeah, same. But these
5? Get them out. Get put in the third Super Poly place.
No, I'm not playing a lot. Then we play 3 Allures. This is best card.
Amazing card.
It's not part of Desires, unfortunately, but this card. No, your logic is flawed. But this card in the deck is really, really nice. It gives you, well, it's a +2, and it also allows you to proc unique effects like your Tragedy or your Mercuria. Bearing in mind, like, it's a draw 2 anyway, so whatever it's the reason why you run 3 Albazes, so whatever you banish you don't really mind, and you can literally recycle them back anyway with your Libellion play. But yeah, the card's just nice to run.
It reminds me of Thunder Dragons, this card in this deck, because
yeah,
it's the same as banishing like Dark or Raw. Like,
exactly, it gives you unique pluses, but only with specific cards, but it's nice to have. And then 1 Foolish, 1 Call By. Please ban this card.
Yeah, get rid of Call by the Grave.
I want Foolish to go as well. It's actually just an adventurer card.
Yeah, it really is.
I'd rather Call by the Grave go.
Speaking of which, like, the reason why I played this build, other than the adventurer stuff, was although the adventurer stuff was unique and you could play it with specific hand traps, and it was very good at like baying out your opponent's interactions, being able to play through specific hand traps with this and setting up a strong board regardless was what put me onto this build. Plus, I preferred having strong cards in hand than having something like an Asher or a Veiler and just waiting for my opponent to play into it when I could instantly have interactions. Like, this deck always has plays and you can constantly recycle everything. So we'll just go on to the extra deck now. So we play 3 copies of Albion the Branded Dragon. I preferred playing, I was only playing 2 and playing the Albalenitus, but going back to 3, this card is definitely a 3 of. It's ridiculously strong. 2 copies of Mirror Jade, best card in the extra deck. It's one of the extra deck cards that is uniquely.
It does everything.
It literally does everything for you. It sets up your plays for next turn, interrupts your opponent.
It's like Chijo.
Yeah, literally.
But does more.
And nukes your board when it leaves.
What is it do that?
Libellion, your main resource recursion. And then we run the Brigand, obviously, and a Titaniclad. I wasn't running Titaniclad before, but this card, it allows you to push for an OTK whilst also getting through very unique board states, and also it allows you to summon a Fallen of Albaz during your opponent's turn.
Doesn't this let you get reach over big massive monsters as well?
Yeah, so you can. The reason why I was also running this as well was because of the fact of during a lot of the regionals I was playing, I was running into a lot of Atignista, and the Arrival is a very awkward card to out in this deck. So the only way you can out it is by making Titaniclad with Albion and also an Iberi that you sided in, which gets it to around about, I think, above 5k, but then if the Arrival reaches over 5k, you're pretty much losing that game anyway and you scoop.
It's better to have the card in your extra then. It's
better to play the out than not have it and then run into a problem on the day. Then we play 2 Guardian Chimera. This card is insane. Like, it breaks boards, lets you set up for your next turn, does everything. Especially with branded in red as well, that this card is insane.
I wish it was a little more generic. Like, I really like this card, and I wish more fusion decks could make like proper use of it. But like, I think this deck just does the best because of branded in red.
Exactly. Like the Predaplant deck can't even make it this much. Make it as much as this deck, as well as I think the only deck that could actually make this uniquely was Fright Furs.
Yeah, Fluff Wars, Heroes can do it as well.
Yeah, but who's playing Heroes? Then we play the Despia Infusion, so we play Wonka Quietus. This will often be what you end on instead of a mask sometimes, because if you're playing into the Punk deck, normally they'll try and go for a Psychic End Punisher if you go for mask, because the burns don't affect them and then they can just Punisher you for game, which I really don't like playing into, so I'll set up this instead just to make sure that I can live. And it also means that...
so you make that because it does nothing instead of doing something?
Not really. It basically requires like my opponent's attention. If they can't out this by any way but battle, then I'm just gonna fuse off their board anyway.
The attack reduction is good as well.
Yeah, of course. And often you just use it for bait. 2 masks. This card just got better with obviously all the new support and being able to make 2 during like a Floowandereeze turn or anything like that. And also playing into Brave decks. If you're going into a game 3 scenario and you're short on time, if you make double this, double mask, it puts your opponent on like what, a 4 move clock or something like that, because
they do like 4 activations before they even make a real play.
So it was something like an Enchantress cost them around about, I can't remember the maps, but it was the Enchantress cost them something around about 9,000 life points, something like that. So it's like, if you make this plus another way of negate, then you should be fine. And then 1 Dracus to Paleo. I was debating on still playing this, but because this deck doesn't really make a lot of negates, you have to run it in certain scenarios. So yeah, that's the extra deck. And then we go on to side deck. So this side was kind of put together last minute, but if I was running into a big event, there would be some things that I would change. So we play 3 Nibiru. Surprisingly, a lot of people aren't playing around Nib. So often when you just nib them, like they can't play through. Like Sword Soul's still a deck that can't play through this. And there was many times during the Nats weekend where I saw this card and just cried. Token Collector, for the exact same reason. Sword Soul's still in the meta, and also Brave is still an engine that...
Do you actually side that card in against Brave?
Only specifically if I know that if I have no other things to side in, but like you get punished if you don't play this card, and I feel like it's still worth running until obviously Brave is dealt with. 3 Twin Twisters.
Spell,
yeah, and I don't want to play Cosmic because running into a game 3 scenario, Cosmicing like back row. The only way that Cosmic would actually be better is if I was playing into a Punk Brave deck, but then again, if I run into those decks, I'd rather just play anything else. Playing 3, there can only be 1s. This was Dimensional Barrier, but I was finding that with most of the matchups, especially in locals, that D-Barrier didn't really affect my matchups too much, whilst this deck can play around Tikaboo very, very well, and not a lot of decks in the meta can play around this card, which is... and this forces removal. Like, you have to get rid of this card in
specific. It's only really the Brave engine that actually gets straight through. Yeah, Brave Punk will play.
Yeah, Brave Punk can play right through this. But like Sword Soul, Floowandereeze, Dinomorphia, quite a lot of the decks in the meta can't play through around this, or decks that are still being played. And then I wanted another form of removal, just in case if we get to like a board state where they had pretty much the end board set up. I wanted to play 3 evenly matched. This card has come up quite a bit, and yeah, I really like playing like, I guess, another form of removal in the deck.
And this is another one that doesn't lose to anti-spell as well.
Exactly, so you at least still end on plays.
Yeah, so and if they want to anti-spell you when you draw this card, then they've got to pay their whole board to anti-spell you. So.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the profile then? Yep, thank you for watching the profile, guys. This definitely feels a lot more natural to me, and hope to see some success with it over the next few months.
Like, comment and subscribe.